My name is Janet Saunders. I now live at Church Green after moving from Stoneham Street in Coggeshall, opposite the town clock. I was born in the same house there, and that was a good many years ago. The date was 1927.
And this was in Stoneham Street?
In Stoneham Street, yes.
Whereabouts in Stoneham Street?
I think it was 2 Stoneham Street, and it's next door to where Bowman's restaurant is now.
Mm. And what did your dad do?
He was an ecclesiastical woodcarver for 60 years.
Oh.
Well, first of all, he served an apprenticeship at Marshall's for 7 years in Bridge Street.
Oh.
He was the local woodcarver then. And then after he retired, Father more or less took over, and as I say, he was in business and doing the wood carving for 60 years. Mm-hmm. A lot of the places he went to was Gifford's Hall in Nayland, Stoke by Nayland, Earl's Cone Church. I think he did pews there.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And Malden Church, he reseated Malden Church.
Yes, mm-hmm.
And in those days he used to drive a Trojan car. Mm-hmm. So to get some of the work over there, he used to put it in this Trojan car and drive that right to the top of the hill. Mother was always horrified when she knew he was going to set off, to think he'd got to go up Malden Hill carrying some of this church furniture. But that's what used to happen there.
Do you remember your grandparents at all?
Yes. Father's parents lived in East Street at Winch's. That's almost opposite where the garage used to be. Mm-hmm. That he had an antique shop at one time in Coggeshall. Mm-hmm. And used to take things out on a horse and cart. Later he had the brick kiln on the Earlscone Road. Mm-hmm. He had that for a good number of years, but he had to close it down, or he did close it down, because during the war the light from the or the flames from the burning lit up the sky, and of course that was bad for the German planes to come over in case, you know, the bombing occurred.
Which was this, the First World War? Or the
yes, the First World War. Yes, that's right.
Now, did you mention he had something to do with Braxton Park?
Yes, that's right. And the bricks that were made in the Cone Road built the Braxton Wall, which was 7 miles long, I think. So it must have taken a good number of years, I should think, to build that.
And how long did it take to build, you know?
No, that I don't know.
No. There must be millions of bricks there.
Must be altogether, because there's quite a expansive work to be done.
Now, what about your mum? Did she do any work at all?
Yes, she was working at the stitching factory for a number of years. And then I suppose she left to get married. Her home before she married was at Surrey's, and naturally she had to walk to work. That's what happened in those days. Well, then when she left there, I think soon after that she must have married Father. Yes, that's right. Yes, I had a sister, and she was older than me, but I can't remember the date when she was born. And she had a life outdoors. She just loved working outdoors, you know, with flowers and vegetables, and on an allotment. She just loved it, and that was her life too. Spend it all outdoors. My sister, yeah, live in this place, 2 Stoneham Street, which I spoke about earlier, and that's where Father had his workshop there. And so, well, it was a big house to keep clean, so I expect Mother did plenty of work on it with the family to look after. naturally she used to go in and have a chat with him, and cups of coffee and cups of tea and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But one amazing feature was when Father was on this church work, sometimes, because an estimated time was given, and in time the vicar of the church used to arrange for the work to be dedicated.
Mm-hmm.
And so the work had to be dedicated. Well, so a date had been fixed, and I know sometimes if Father was running a little bit late, he would stay up all night to try and get it finished, you know, so the work could be dedicated. And while he was working in there at night, because Mother didn't go to sleep, she used to make him coffee and tea and all that. And there was quite an occasion when the local policeman on duty walking past could see the light there, so he used to come in and used to say, "Oh, hello Mr. Saunders, how are you getting on?" and all the rest of it. Then he used to stay and have a cup of tea. So I can remember Father, you know, talking about that. But the work always got there on time, you know, because if he thought there wasn't much time, he would always, you know, work through the night.
Have any idea what sort of money he made or income he made at all?
Yes, very poor.
Very poor.
Yes, it was.
Any
yes.
idea roughly?
No idea.
When did your mum open the greengrocer or general store?
Well, it must have been when I left school.
Mm. Anyway, we'll talk about yourself. Which school did you go to, first of all?
The church school in Stoneham Street.
I see, yeah.
But as I was saying, I was never all that well, and I had lots of time home from school. So that was the only school I went to.
Mm-hmm.
And on one occasion I'd been home ill, and the doctor had been, and he gave me the okay to go back to school. So Father came back with me and spoke to the headmistress, and that was in the infants class then, if I remember. And so the teacher's name was Mrs. Morgan. So she said, "Oh well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll move the desk and chair near the tortoise stove, so that she gets, you know, direct heat from the stove, you know, and she won't catch cold." So Father said, "Well, it'll be lovely if you can do that." So she said, "Yes, certainly I will." And so in due course my desk came down and the chair came down and sat beside this lovely stove, and just all right. Well, I hadn't been there long before crash bang wallop, and down come the ceiling and covered me over. I caught the lot.
They took you home?
They took me home again, yes.
Oh dear.
But I did get over it all right then, but I may be feeling the effects of it now.
What were the teachers like?
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Morgan, she was lovely with the young children that went in her class for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was another teacher, Mrs. Morgan, and she was a little bit more strict, you know, but she was all right. But you know, two different temperaments.
How many children? Did you go to any other school?
No, I didn't.
No.
Because I didn't have enough education, really, you know. So.
And what age did you leave school?
When I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mother said, "Oh well," because I expect she made a fuss of me, you know, Father did as well, and they said, "Oh well, have a bit of a rest before you look for a job." So I said yes. So I think I had a few weeks off, and then Mother said, "The lady next door in the shop, Mrs. Lawrence, is looking for someone to help her out because her husband is very ill and he needs a lot of attention, and she's wondering if you could go in and serve in the shop." So I said, "Oh yes, that'll be nice, it's only next door." So that's what happened. I went in, and in due course Mrs. Lawrence had to leave the shop in my charge completely because of her husband was deteriorating. And so I got to know a lot of people and got into everything, and I managed all right, as far as I know.
How old were you then? How old were you then?
Well, in between 14 and 15, I suppose.
Very young, but...
Yes, that's right. Well then, eventually this Mr. Lawrence, he died, and Mrs. Lawrence said to Mother, well, your daughter's been getting on all right, you wouldn't like to buy the business, would you? So Mother said, oh, I don't know. So she said, well, you don't want to worry about Janet because she's managed beautifully and she's done the buying for us, she's done everything for me. So parents spoke about it and they decided that's what they would do, so that's how I came to go there.
And this is where Bowman's is now?
That's where Bowman's is now, yes. And then it was during the war, so we did groceries, and then we could serve people with their ration books. A lot of people registered with us during the war. And
what was Gwen doing? Gwen was a slightly older than you.
Yes, but I think for a time she did go over to the art shades in Fearing, painting lampshades, but she wasn't satisfied there, you know. As I say, she left and went on the land, as I call it.
Do you have any friends at school?
Oh yes, well, so many of them now. And oh, it's another thing, I could never go out to play. He wasn't strong enough to go out and play, you see, so I was kept indoors, and I expect I was reading books or something like that.
Do you remember any of the doctors at that time, or in your younger days, the doctors?
Well, I don't know what year it would be, but there was a Dr. Slee, but I think he had a surgery opposite the factory, and you had to go up the steps to get into the room there. But the main doctor was Dr.
Moffat, was it?
Yes, I reckon so. Yes, he was there a number of years, wasn't he? Yes. He was very well liked and very good.
Now you had one or two uncles in the town at the time, didn't you?
Yes, two uncles in the town. Stanley Saunders. He had a shop in the Market Hill, Coggeshall, and that was like a general stores, and he used to sell electrical goods, and he'd sell almost anything, I think, that was available. And in time he sold that and went down to Jaywick and opened a amusement house there, amusement barcade, is it?
Arcade.
Barcade.
Music, entertainment.
And then Bert, he went to do work at E.W. King's, the seed growers. But a lot of people did go to work for Crittall's in Braintree, used to go down and catch the bus every morning to Braintree. Some went to Marconi's at Chelmsford. But
do you remember any characters in the town, eccentric characters at all?
Well, one that people always used to talk about was Harry Barry.
Oh.
He was an exceptional person, and I don't know, he was into everything really, but he was a quaint kind of person, but so people used to laugh at him and about him and all that kind of thing.
What was this? Was this the barber?
Harry Barry the barber in Church Street.
Yes,
yes. You remember him, do you?
Yes,
yes.
Indeed.
And then there was Mr. Humphreys had a barber shop in Stoneham Street, right next to the town clock, adjoining the town clock. And his wife was always noted for wearing beautifully white laundered aprons. Always like that, day after day. There was never a mark on her aprons at all. And then when Mr. Humphrey wasn't hair cutting and that kind of thing and shaving people, he'd look out of the window, and in the window they had a board about that depth that went up, so you could only see their heads over the window, and him and his wife used to stand there and see what was going on. So there are another couple of Coggeshall characters.
In your childhood, there were a lot of shops, weren't there? Can you recall many of the shops?
Oh, yes. Because it's funny, I only went through those the other day with a friend. There was Stead & Simpson's, next to the post office.
The shoe people.
Yes. Tilbrook, the shoe mender. Mr. Girton had a leather shop down there. Mower, a grocery shop there, and another one next to the post office. Patsy, the butcher shop.
Where was that?
Almost opposite where Bert and Ivy used to live.
Was that East Street, was it?
East Street, yes. There's a shop there now, but I don't know what it is. But that's where Patsy had a butcher shop. Another butcher shop in Church Street, that was Dixie, which is now the floral shop. Co-op had a butcher shop. Going
back to when you were in Stodham Street, did you have electricity there when you in your early days? Did you have electricity or gas?
No, that must have been gas in the early days, but of course that was electricity later on.
Yes.
But in the very early days, I can just remember, you know, Mother having a gas oven, and there used to be gas lighting.
Were you always involved with the church yourself? Did you always go to Sunday school?
Well, yeah, we all were really, when I think about it. Mother used to go to the Mothers' Union as to do the church.
You went to Sunday school?
I went to Sunday school, yes.
The doctors, do you remember the nurses here at the time, or nurse?
Mrs. Brooker, was it?
Miss Brooker, was it?
Brooker, yes.
Did she come and see you sometimes?
Well, I expect she must have done.
What was she like?
Oh, she was quite a character, yes. I think she used to speak to so many people and used to spread the word around, you know. She was that type of person.
Now, I believe in the 1930s there were pantomimes at the St Peter's Hall.
Yes, that's right, by the Coggeshall Amateur Dramatic Society.
Did you ever go to them?
I expect I did, but I don't think I went to many, because it means being up late, and of course being a child they had to go upstairs to bed. My father used to be in that.
Did
He used to be one of the nigger minstrels, I think. And
did he play an instrument?
No.
No, just
No.
sang.
And so I remember the costume he used to wear, especially the striped coloured trousers. And when he'd finished going to the classes there, I expect he had more work to do, so he was concentrating on that. The trousers were just packed away. Well, when I was going through Father's things after he died and looking through things, I found these trousers. So I put them with other things of his, which I'll tell you about later. And now the funny thing is that the Amateur Dramatic Society has reformed again now. So I think I've been asked if I can remember anybody that used to go. Well, I had some photographs, but they're in albums that are packed away and I haven't found them yet. But all the people on there must have been quite 30 people on the stage, and I probably knew all the names of all of them. So that would be of interest, and I was going to give them to someone that was to do with this society now, if I could find them, but...
Oh well. Do you remember the carnivals?
Yes, I used to enter them.
You did? What did you go as, or what did you do?
Well, I used to be in the procession, and I remember once I was a walking and talking doll, and Father made me the box, you know, that the dolls came in. I used to wear it over my head and down, and there used to be a space at the bottom so I could move, you see, walk. So I remember that one.
What were you supposed to be?
Well, just a doll in a box.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Any other occasions?
Red Riding Hood, I think I took that part.
Now moving on to the war years, were you still at home? Were you all this time? Did you stay at home?
Yes, because I remember weighing up the rations, which were very, very small. We had a lot of single people coming in, you know, so you can hardly see their rations. I think it's about 1 ounce of butter and 1 ounce of cheese or something like that. And so we had, the number grew. We had quite a lot of people that were rationed with us during the war. Yes.
So you and your mother were busy running the shop through the war years?
Yes, all through the war years, yes.
Where did you get your vegetables and stuff from?
From wholesalers that came round. There was Smith and Sons from Colchester, Wadley and Sons from Colchester. They were all very good, and I remember when Smiths used to come round with their vans, I think he'd only got one eye. He didn't wear a patch, but he only got one eye. And of course the children in the street there used to follow the van and say, "Hello, Mr. Smith." They didn't call him anything else other than that. So, not to his face. So I said, what have you got for us today? So he said, "Well, I've only got empty boxes here today. They won't be any good to you, will they?" So we said, "No." So another time he would come and we'd follow the van again. "Hello, Mr. Smith, what have you got for us today?" He said, "I've got something that you'll like." He said, "I've got this off the orange boxes," because the orange boxes were wooden and used to stand that high. And they always used to be bound round with string. And that wire was quite as thick as that, you know. That was round the boxes. And he used to gather all that and give it, and knot it and give it to us. He said, "There you are, there's a lovely skipping rope for you all." So half the children went one side of the road and half the children the other side. Had a lovely time skipping. Of course they wouldn't be able to do that today, would they? No. Oh dear.
So as you lived really on the Market Hill, the square, you saw, were there any demonstrations there, any meetings took place on the square? Do you recall? No,
I don't think so. I don't think that was a thing that happened in those days.
Did the hunts still meet there? The hunt?
They used to meet there, yes they did, yes. And of course that's all finished now, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you recall the hills at all from Holfield Grange?
Holfield Grange, yes. Yes, they used to shop in the town. And I still see Mr. Reggie Hill now, and he always speaks, because I expect there's not many people in Colchester now that he would meet and know.
Now, during the war years, what did your father do?
Well, to his disappointment, although he understood how things were, the merchants where he used to get the wood from, they couldn't get any more wood. All that timber had to go to for the war effort, and because there was no more timber imported, you see, not during the war. So it meant that Father couldn't get anything to do his work. A lot of work was cancelled because they wouldn't have work done in churches and all that. So the chap that was working for him, he said to him, "Well, we shall have to look for another job outside." So they said, "Oh, good gracious, well, what have we got to do?" So Father said, "Well, the early morning at 7 o'clock you can see a whole lot of people coming down the road getting on the bus to work at Crittall's in Braintree. There's another bus, you can see them all come down the road working, going to work at Marconi's." So they said, "Well, we'll try one of these places." So they thought they'd try Marconi's. So they had an appointment to go there and see about work, and the only thing that could be offered to them was to do the blackout where the glass roofing was, because that all had to be covered, you see. So they said, "Well, we don't really like the idea, but we've got to do something, so all right, we'll accept." So they did. So they used to catch one of those buses out on the hill every morning. Of course, that was a bit strange, you know, going to a strange place and people they hadn't seen before and all the rest of it. And then during the winter time, Father said, well, I'm going to, because they were working outside, you see, so after him working in the workshop in the warmth and not at all, he felt the cold and got to be on a roof. So he said to the apprentice, he said, I'm going to wear my overcoat. So the apprentice said, oh, he said, I think I will too. So they were both doing that, and of course they felt better, you know, for doing it. And then apparently the foreman came along, so he said, Saunders, what do you think you're doing working an overcoat up here? So father said, well, I'm sorry, he said, but I'm so cold up here. Well, he said, you know, it's against the rules, he said, or against the law or something, that you shouldn't be working in an overcoat up here. I expect if they fell or caught it on something, so there was nothing to save them. So father said, well, I'm sorry, he said, I'd have to give my job in then because I can't work up here not wearing an overcoat. So the foreman said, well, come down into my office. So father went down and explained to him what he was, and that he'd always worked inside, never went outside at all. He said, and to come up onto a roof, he said, in the winter time, he said, there's enough to kill me. He said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Not because I don't want to do it, he said, but I'm sorry, I just can't do it. So at any rate, there must have been another meeting, and they decided that him and Prentice could wear their overcoats up there. So father spent a number of, well, months up there, you see, blacking out the roof, the glass. Well then, apparently it must have been known what his work was, ecclesiastical woodcarver. So they called him down into the office again, and they said, well, Saunders, we may have another job for you. So father said, oh yes, but what will that be? They said, we want some boxes made, specially made at one of our other factories, and that's where the specialised new equipment will be in there, and that's got to go into a good box. So they said to father, can you make it? So father said, yes, that I will. And so he had that job. He was taken off the roof, and he had to travel over fields, I think, to get a place at Beasley End where these wartime things were made, secret things were made, and he made these at no end of these boxes for them. Well then, one day, this is another bit of the story which was interesting. Well then one day, a gentleman came up to him and said, Saunders? So father said, yes, that's my name. So he said, well, what do you think you're doing working over here? So father explained, and they couldn't get the timber. So he said, well, he said, do you remember many years ago you had 2 chairs over from Patterswick? Father said, yes, and you had to repair them because they'd been damaged in a church in London. He said, so they were sent down to Patterswick. I expect they thought, well, they'll be able to do something with them. And he said, we wondered if you can repair them for us. So father said, well, yes, you know, I shan't have a lot of spare time working here. So then this gentleman said to father, you had to get those chairs, or when you finished repairing those chairs, you had to bring them back to Patterswick church. So father said, yes, and you brought them along on a trolley, would they be called? Push cart? Push cart, yes, that's right. And you walked all the way there from Coggeshall to Patterswick village. And they said, vicarage I should have said. And then when you got to the main gate for coming in, you saw 2 little boys running towards you. So father said, yes. And they said, oh, please, can we help you push the cart? So father said, well, yes, but be careful, you know. So they said, oh, yes, it'll be lovely. And they were chatting away there. So father said, yes, I will remember that. So the gentleman said, well, I was one of those little boys. That was an extraordinary happening, wasn't it?
Extraordinary.
Yes. And his name was Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker.
Yes. And so the knowing who this gentleman was, it happened at Marconi's, and then he said, well, we'll see, I'll see what I can do for you. Well, he did get a bit better job for Father, and as you know, during the war, Marconi's was bombed, and Father had to make a screen and carve the names on there of the people that had died. And he was put on to better work, you know, and anything in the wood line he was able to do. Well then, when Father left after the war, because they could have stayed, you see, he said, I can't do this, he said, I must go back and do my wood carving. So he came back, and then this Mr. Walker and his wife and 2 boys used to come over and have afternoon tea on a Sunday.
Oh, how nice.
Yes, it was very nice indeed.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So that was a memorable occasion for all of us, really.
Now, when did you get involved in, you know, floristry?
I think I used to do flowers in church. I've really forgotten now, but I think I did. Well then, that's right. Well, sometime after the war, oh yes, Mother said, well, she wasn't too well, she was full of arthritis, and she said, it's no good, I can't carry that on, I shall have to get rid of the shop, she said, but if you and Gwen would like to go in and do it between you and make a go of it, well, you'll both be all right, I'll pass it on to you. So we were both, Gwen and I were both approached, and Gwen said, oh no, I can't work indoors, she said.
This is Gwen you're talking about?
Gwen, yes, can't work indoors. She said, it'd drive me crazy to be indoors all the time. So at that time Gwen must have been working at Humphrey Brothers. So Mother said the business will have to be sold, which it was, to Phyllis Wood. And so I didn't go anywhere for 8 weeks, I can remember. And then Gwen came home one day and she said, there's a vacancy at Humphrey's if you'd like to work up there. I said, I can't work outside. No, she said, it's in the shop, you can work in the shop, where they sell the cut flowers and pot plants. So I said, oh, well, that doesn't sound too bad, I think I can manage that. So I had an interview with Mr. Humphrey and was given the job of working in the shop. So that's where I first started handling flowers and making bouquets and wreath work and all that. And
did you teach yourself, or did you have lessons, or did you?
Oh no. The work that was done there before in that line was done by one of the Humphrey brothers, Horace.
I see.
So when he was doing anything like that, he said, oh, well, come and watch and see what we're doing. So that's how I picked it up, from watching him. But I didn't have any proper schooling over that. But I mean, from watching someone that's actually making the thing, well, I couldn't do better, really.
Oh, no. Now, did you have to walk up to Humphreys? Or
well, I did.
Cycle?
Oh no, a cycle, that wasn't me. I did have a cycle, but I didn't do very well with that, so that had to go. So I walked up to Humphreys, that would be about a mile, do you think?
Yes.
Yeah, there and back. Well then...
what did you do for lunchtime? Did you have a lunch?
Oh, you used to come home for lunch and then walk back again. So it's good exercise.
What sort of hours did you work in those?
I think it was from 8:30 in the morning until probably 12:30 for lunch, and then back again 1:30, and left off at 5, I think.
Did you work Saturdays?
Every other Saturday, I think, and not Sundays. I walked backwards and forwards, but then on one occasion I was walking back home, and that was in the time when the car carriers used to come through Coggeshall, and I was walking down on the path on the left hand side, and this huge lorry came along with all these cars on, and it went past me as quick as anything. It was pouring with rain. Of course, I just got splashed and wet through with all the water. I ran up the bank, but I still caught the lot, you know. So I said to Mother, right, this is my lot now. I said, it's me getting wet and the car is in the garage in the dry. I said, I'll go by car, and that's how I did the last little while. Used to use my car.
When did you first start to drive?
Oh, I don't know.
Did your father have a van still of the war? Do you have a van?
No, he didn't. No, Hutley's used to carry his work about for him. Arthur Hutley.
Who taught you to drive?
I had lessons from British School of Motoring, I suppose. And at that time I hadn't got a car.
Yeah.
And that was at a time when it was difficult to obtain a car, and you had to have your name down to get one. So I'd got my name down at Toffs at Braintree, which are no longer there. Mr. Haddock, that used to live in Coggeshall, had a Morris car, and he used to go to Tollesbury. So he said, "I'll put your name down there." I said, "Right." And I had my name down at a third place, but I can't think where that was now. So I know when I told Mother, she said, "Now what do you think you're going to do with 3 cars?" And I said, "Oh, don't worry, don't worry." I said, "I shall only have one." I said, "And of course the other garage people will be pleased to sell the other 2, you see." So
was this the Morris Minor?
Morris 1000.
Morris 1000?
Yes.
And that the first car you had?
Yes.
And that's the one you've just got rid of?
Yes, that's right, first and
all
last.
those years?
Yes, I think I drove for 60 years.
Special, you know, florist activities like a special wedding or celebration which you're involved in at all? Or?
Yes, definitely. I was still working at Humphreys. I was there for a number of years, and I can't say how many I have forgotten. But it was well known in the town that I was working there and used to do flowers for people in Coggeshall and all the rest of it. And Mrs. lives up Tay Road. What was her name? She used to be a councillor.
I don't know.
No, I can't think of her name.
Not Drake, not Drake, was it?
Yes.
Drake. Mrs.
Yes,
Drake.
Mrs. Drake, yes. Now the thing is, she said, the children's ward at the new hospital is going to be open, and it's called the Coggeshall ward. So I wonder if you'd come along and do some flowers for us. So I said, well, yes, I suppose so. So she said, well, I'll let you know the date, you know, for you to come and all the rest of it. So that was arranged, and so she said, I think it's for the occasion of when the Queen comes to officially open the hospital. Of course it had been open 2 or 3 years before, but this was a special date for her to come along and officially open the hospital. So I said yes. So she said, well, they'd like some flowers here, there and there and there and there and there. So it ended up I did 17 arrangements.
Oh, crikey.
So Gwen came with me, and the sister of the ward was very good. That was the children. I did say the children's ward. She let us have one of the bathrooms there, so we put the flowers out of the buckets into the bath so they could get water. And then the foliage and that went in the buckets, or the other way about, I've really forgotten now. But so we had the use of the bathroom there for the flowers and equipment and bowls and basins and tools and all the rest of it. So we were just one day doing that, or I was just one day doing that, but with Gwen's help. If I told her what flowers I wanted, I said, oh, well, I could do with a dozen roses now, so she'd go along and bring them back. So she was a great help that way. Well, come about 7 o'clock at night, I said, there's another couple of arrangements to do. I really can't do them. I, you know, had enough. Because I think we started about 8 o'clock. So they were in 2 windows, I think. Where I'd been asked to do them, so I spoke to the sister. I said, I really don't think I can do those, you know, I'm tired. So she said, oh, well, that's all right, don't do them. Well, I got back and I thought, oh, how mean, how dreadful. It's not a bit like me to say I can't do it. Put your best foot forward and do them, and I did. And the sister was ever so pleased that I had got them done. Of course I went back dead tired and soon went to bed and that kind of thing. I think I spoke to the sister before I came away, and she said, well, would you like to come in the grounds where people can stand and see the Queen arrive? So I said, oh yes, that would be lovely, we shall enjoy that, we'll certainly come. I think she was so pleased with what I had done. She said, would you like to come into the children's ward where the Queen will be coming? I said, oh yes please. Because I think she was so grateful at what I had done. And so Gwen and I had to assemble there at a certain time before the Queen got there, of course. And there was only about 6 parents in the ward, the sister, 2 nurses and a doctor, I think. That's all there was in the ward, and Gwen and myself. So then the nurse, the Queen entered, and she went round to the, spoke to the children. Well then when she got to where Gwen and I stood, she must have been told that I did the flowers, and she stopped and spoke to me. Oh, it was a wonderful occasion, yes. Wanted to know, you know, if I always did flowers, and asked all about it, you know. And then she gave me a lovely smile and walked away and went on to the next group of children.
Air raids, we call any air raids at all?
Yes. Yes, the thing is, when the siren used to go, well, of course we were all aware of that and used to be more alert, I suppose, and if we could hear planes coming or a bomb near, we would, we were allocated an air raid shelter, but that was some way up the street, so we didn't go there. What we did was to crawl under the table, like this one, but our heads were all right. We all got our heads under the table. We'd all got our bottoms sticking out of the back. Oh dear, but that's what we used to do. But Gwen was out with the first aid, and their headquarters were at the Mount in Coggeshall. And so as soon as the siren used to go, Gwen used to go up there, you see, in case there were any bombing nearby and casualties. So on one particular evening when the siren went, Gwen was going to make her way up to the Mount, and she was walking along by the brick wall almost opposite the church, and that's when that was bombed, and she threw herself on the ground where there were 2 soldiers walking behind her, and they shouted out, get down, get down. So of course Gwen did go to the ground. When she got up, she'd grazed her knee because she went down so quickly, I suppose. So the soldiers wanted to know if she was all right, so she said, yes, I'm going to the first aid point, so it'll be all right. And they've dressed her knee up there. And I know several times she laughingly said that she was the first casualty in Coggeshall.
Oh, that's a bomb actually fell on the church that night?
Yeah, that night, yes.
She was very close to it then.
She was just in line with it, really, wasn't she?
Oh, very lucky, wasn't she? Do we call any other similar things, or planes crashing or anything like that?
No, I can't think of...
Well, come to VE Day. Do you remember VE Day? Did you have a celebration on the hill?
I expect so, but I can't really remember that. No. But I expect they must have done. No, I can't remember that.
Anyway, eventually Mother gave up the shop.
Yes.
And you were working for Humphreys.
Humphreys, yes, that's right.
Your dad was still working on his carving.
Yes, he got back to that again.
Did he ever retire?
No, not really. He couldn't do the heavy work, but I mean, he used to, what I call potter about. He'd do picture framing and small things like that. And I know he came home from hospital for 3 weeks, and we got a bed downstairs, so he was there. And I know on 1 or 2 occasions I closed the middle door, you see, to keep the room warm. So one day he said, "Dear, oh dear," he said, "don't close that door," he said. "I like to look through to my workshop."
Oh,
So we didn't close it anymore. But, you know, we automatically made a move.
What happened to the workshop? What happened to the workshop?
Well, while Gwen was still alive, while Mother was still alive as well, she said to me one day, she said, because I didn't touch that workshop for 5 years. We had to walk through there to get to the front door to go out. Mother said to me one day, "Can't we do something with that shop?" She said, "Sell everything in there," she said, "because I don't want to see it like this any longer." So we said, right, we'll see what we can do. So all these jobs used to fall upon me, you know, so I went through and made a start, and I came across one or two interesting things, and so I said to Mother, "Well, we can't part with this, we can't part with this." So she said, "Well, I reckon you'll have to." So I said, "Oh, I'll wait and see." Well, I found my way around, and I found so many things. I said, "I can't let these things go." And so I told Mother what I wanted to do. I said, "I want to make Father's workshop into a museum." Well, she said, "But it won't be everything." I said, "No, I'll be selective." So she said, "Oh, all right then." And so to start off with, I mean, that workshop had been used for 60 years, or the room had for 60 years as a workshop. So first of all I had to wash everywhere down. It was a lot of wood, no, I don't know, it was panelling, no, it's not the right term, but a lot of wood in there. So I washed all those walls down once. Then I went round a second time with cuprinol, because that was a lot of wood there, you see, so I knew there'd be that about, so that was twice. Then I started putting emulsion paint on. I think I went round 3 times with that. There's 5 times I went round those walls. And then as I found things that I thought should be kept, I started putting them in the different places around the shop, just like that, for no particular reason. The bench was taken from the window. I had to have Owen Martin and someone else to move that, it was so heavy, and put it on the back there with his tools. So I set it out in the form of a museum that could be used for that. And I was quite pleased with it when that was finished, and so was Mother. She said, "Well, you've done well." She said, "I never thought you'd do this." I said, "Oh yes, well I have." Then there was a surplus of timber, so Birkin had that. 1 or 2 other things, I don't know what, I can't remember what happened to them, but I must have gone somewhere. And then eventually Mother died, and there was just Gwen and myself there, and we said, "Well, what's the next stage we do? I mean, what will happen to the museum here when we're not here?" So she said, "Well, we must think what we can do." So I said, "I know what we can do." I said, "Perhaps the National Trust will have it, and they can look after it, and that if they're set out in Coggeshall, that our worries are over." So we both agreed, and the lady from National Trust came along, was impressed with what she saw, and of course they have now accepted the tools and everything in there. They put it into storage until they can get a place ready to put them in. I think they'll soon be doing that at the barn, where there's some outbuildings, and so they will get that done, and then eventually these things that are in store now will all come back into Coggeshall and set out as a museum. And the lady did say she'd put them out in the same order as I'd got them.
Oh, well,
So that's very good, isn't it?
well, that's nice. Of course, your dad did lots of wonderful drawings of the work you were going to do, didn't he? He used to have to plan.
Oh yes, yes, that's right. Yes, yes. All his invoice books are there from the time he started to, with all the details in.
Yeah.
Brixham in Devon he went to, and made I think that was a screen or an altar he made for Brixham in Devon. He went all over the different parts of the country doing his work.
Some of the main things he made must have been heavy.
Oh yes, they were, yes.
Church benches and pews and things.
And the church pews were long, as you know. Well, the shop was long, but it wasn't, that was wide, but not wide for what he wanted. So to turn that pew end round so they could carve it in or fix it in the light, they used to go out of the front door, across the road, onto the path, turn round, turn the work round and come back again. Well, they wouldn't do that with all today's traffic about, would they?
No, no.
But it's what they used to do.
Yeah.
Yes, it's funny, all these things come back. Now another interesting thing is Annis's milk yard. Do you remember that?
Oh yes.
Annis's.
Yeah.
Well, he kept the farm in West Street where all the cattle was, and so there was a lot of cows there which had to be milked. So they were brought down the farmyard, out onto the road, used to walk all the way down West Street, down to be milked to a shed in Church Street, down the yard there. But I mean, you think all those cows walking down West Street and across the hill.
Not today.
No, they wouldn't, would they?
No. No. Very.
Well, I can remember seeing the cows do that, to come down. Yeah, that's another thing. During the war, Bert had got a piece of land round St Peter's Road, but he wasn't allowed to build his house because it was wartime. So it was a big piece of land down there he got, and I expect something about that time it was said that if you could keep 3 pigs, you could keep one yourself. I think the amount is right, so they said. So, oh yes, people thought that was a good thing. So I think Stanley came up with the idea, well, there's 3 of us, why don't we have a pig each on Bert's ground? So they said, well, we shan't manage that, don't know how to feed pigs, don't know how to look after them. They said, oh well, we'll have to find out. At any rate, they decided to have these 3 pigs, and there was a great big shed built for them down the bottom of the garden. And they decided to have this pig each. Well, then they got to decide about the feeding, so they were going to take it in turns. There was Stanley would feed it 1 week, Bert would feed it another week, Father would feed it the week after him. So that's how it went on for some time, and Father used to get on his bike and go up and feed these pigs, and no problems at all, you know, he managed all right. But one day it started to rain, and because he used to go quite early, but that was raining, so Mother said, oh, you can't go up there just yet, you know, wait till the rain stops. Well, then there was a thunderstorm and the rain didn't stop, that was heavy. And that was getting on for 12 o'clock, so Father said, oh, you'll have to go. So she said, oh, no, you won't. She said, it's still raining heavy. So he said, well, I can't help that. So that probably eased off a bit, I don't know, but that was still raining quite heavy. So she said, well, what are you going to wear? So he hadn't got any Wellingtons because he was never going out in that kind of weather, you see. So he was always working in the shop. But he said, well, I just have to go in the shoes I'm wearing now, so he did. He had got a raincoat, so he put that on. So then my mother said, well, what are you going to do for your head? She said, you haven't got a cap, because Father never used to go out much, you see, so he didn't have the use of wearing a cap. Cap, he said, well, no, I haven't got one of them either. Now what have I got to do? Oh, well, he said, I'll just have to get through. Oh, no, he said, wait a minute. So he went upstairs, and he came down with a bowler hat on. Mother said, you're not going to wear that? So he said, I am. He said, that'll keep me a little bit dry. He said, not much, he said, but I'll wear it. So he got on his bike outside wearing his bowler hat, and he went across the hill. Of course, there was not much traffic in those days. Went across the hill and saw no end of people that he knew, so he said, morning, morning, morning.
You used to celebrate Christmas. Did you have parties or Christmas time?
No, I don't. No, oh, well, we used to go down to Stan and Cons in town. We used to go down there for Christmas Day. Then just a quiet time at home. I don't think we used to go out anyway.
We used to go to church as well.
Yes. Well, I used to go Mother and myself used to go 3 times.
On Christmas Day?
No, sorry, used to go twice a day. Mother used to go twice a day. I used to go 3 times a day because there'd be the children in the afternoon 3 times a day. And then Father was crucified for 40 years.
Oh, well, yes.
Yeah, so when I go to church and see that there, of course, I naturally just think of him, you know, because I can remember seeing him walking with that cross.
Sure. I thought it was very sad when the church got bombed.
Well, it was, wasn't it? Because there was nothing but rubble at the end there, but they were lucky that the top part was saved, the sanctuary part was saved. But all the rest was destroyed. I've got photographs of that Father took. He got up early the next morning and went to take these photographs.
Of course, the rood screen was destroyed, wasn't it? Or taken down though, wasn't it, later on?
Yes, because we've got a photograph of that, and I often think about that too. The screen was across at the bottom of the sanctuary there, and on the top was a cross. And when these photographs come back and we had a look at them, we all mentioned the fact, because it seemed so outstanding, that you could see all this rubble at the other part of the church where the tower end had come down, and roof as well. And you could see the rood screen still there, and the cross on the top, looking down at all that rubbish. So that seemed to be a sign somehow. But I think I asked somebody the other day what happened to the screen and the cross, and nobody seems to know. Well, no, somebody must have known something about it, but of course it's too late now, we shall never know.
Did your father have...
Yes, I reckon that's about the lot.